Over the last couple of months, I've been hearing a lot about Synchro shift for Shimano Di2 electronic gears, but I have to admit that I didn't really know what it was until I started talking to one of my cycling chums. It appears that Synchro shift is the big thing with Di2 at the moment and has got quite a few people very excited. But if you're in the dark and you'd like to know what it is and more importantly how it affects your cycling, then here's the lowdown. If you're currently running Di2 on your road bike, then you'll probably have two front cogs and either 10 or 11 speeds on the back. To change gears, you'll probably use the right shifter to go up and down the cogs on the back and the left shifter to go between the two on the front. As you do this, you'll probably notice that when you change from the big to the small ring on the front derailleur or vice versa, you also need to adjust the gears on the back to achieve a similar cadence. So for instance, let's imagine that you're riding along quite happily in the big ring on the front and your 19-tooth cog on the back. You then come to a hill, and as you start climbing, your cadence slows, so you shift down through the rear cogs until you run out. Normally, you'd then shift to the small cog on the front, but if you don't start moving the rear cogs back up the block, you'll be in a much lower gear than you might actually need. Now, I'm probably the only person in the world to call this castling, but then I did used to play a lot of chess back in the day. With Synchro shift, however, all you need to worry about is changing gears using the right-hand shifter. Then, as you go up and down the block, the system will automatically shift between the big and small rings on the front so that you're working your way through the gears in sequence. Now, how useful this actually is up for debate, especially when you factor in the cost of upgrading the older Di2 systems to accommodate the new feature. As far as I'm aware, newer Di2 systems have all of this as standard, but if like me you're running an older version, you'll need to buy a couple of pieces of extra hardware and update the firmware, which is done via USB if you use a PC. Unfortunately, us Mac users have to do it wirelessly, which means buying a Bluetooth module and installing the smartphone app. I personally don't mind castling. At the end of the day, it boils down to a couple of extra hand movements to click the shifters. Most of my riding is for fun, so losing a couple of nanoseconds while I work out my optimum gear is no great shakes, but if you're racing, this may be a consideration. But then racers have been doing without Synchro shift on traditional cable systems since the year dot, so perhaps this is a bit of a gimmick. So the big question is, will I be upgrading to Synchro shift? Well, I've totted up the numbers and it's going to cost me around about £100 or $150, and I personally don't think it's worth it. But if you're already running Synchro shift, I would love to know what you think. Thanks for watching.